And welcome back to part 29 of Final Fantasy XII, where today, after dealing with Dr. Cid, we're going to spend not only the whole of this part, but tomorrow's part, side questing. So if you're only interested in the story, you're jumping 2 parts from now, because it's just how it be. I want to show off as much as I can, so it's pushing on this way, it's getting it done. And the reason why this video is so short, and the reason why it's sort of split into 2 despite this being so short, is because the next part is dedicated to one boss. And I think even if it wasn't for the fact that the boss took a lot longer in the recording than I expected it to be, I'd still kind of want it to be its own video because it's an important boss that will make a lot of sense if you're a long-time Final Fantasy fan like me. But anyway, there's some hunts that we can pick up, and that's pretty much the basis of our side questing. We're not going into exclusive new areas, we're just doing hunts. Tracking down the people to talk to, tracking down where the beasts are. Most of them are even in the Sheeta Uplands or in the Soheim Cave Palace, so you don't have to go too far to find them. But I do believe there's 1 or 2 as well that are carryovers that we picked up far earlier and just hadn't turned in yet. But when you first enter the Soheim Cave Palace from the bottom, the Overlord hunt will actually have this guy with you, so you have an extra assistance. But not that it means much, because he's kind of useless. Like, sometimes the extra buddies you get can be quite handy and quite helpful. This guy isn't. Where you're heading towards is, you see, as we're like about to take a left going up, there's a bump that goes off to the side. He's going to be in there, so make sure to clear out any and all enemies, because that's him there. And the thing that sucks with Overlord is that this dude he's another boss that seems to get a lot stronger when he's nearly dead, and I'm kind of not at either the right level or the right strategy to deal with that at this stage, but I push to take him on anyway. It's kind of my curse of wanting to try and get everything done as soon as possible when it becomes available within reason. Sometimes I get to stages where, you can see, for the most part this boss is fine, I'm just getting my way through it, getting it done. And then there's going to be a point where it just kind of grinds to a halt, and nothing's really moving. Ash is getting beat up. Smite of Rage hurts a lot. And the thing is that the guy will spam it. And then that happens. And I was like, you see, I even paused for a second because I had to go, hang on, what? Like, the extra buddy completely got massacred there, so we don't even have a 4th team member, because you can't pick up, like, roaming NPCs, because that's all it counts as. He's not dead because we have to turn in the side quest somehow, so he'll come back. But now he's going to start buffing himself again to just get ready to cast it again. Well, he does try attack. I think it's in a pattern, but I'm still, you can see me being a little bit more cautious. Like, okay, get everyone topped up, and I need to finish this thing now before it does rage again and wipes out what, and then it just stacks attacks and just bonks Basch to death. Look, it's the bonk graph. Well, at least I now know what to call this part, I suppose. To be fair, that's something that I've underestimated until I started actually putting subtitles in the video parts. Back when I started doing Bloodborne way back when, I always kind of underestimated. I was like, oh, it'll be easy enough. But when I actually start doing it, like in Bloodborne, I just made it the name of the boss, with the exception of the odd parts where there wasn't one. Or if, like, there was one part where I spent the entirety of the video talking about Sega because Sonic Mania had not long been announced. And so I made the video like, Sega does what Nintendo don't, just to the reference. But after that, I tried to make something either relating to the video, something related to a joke, or just something effective at delivering what the part's about, so you know what it's about in a sometimes cheeky but effective manner. Some of them are hard. Like, Death End Request was probably the hardest one I had because of how much plot goes on. Like, I had a bunch of jokes for it, but all of them was like, this is just kind of the same joke with different words because the plot's going on for so long, kind of thing. And I was like, well, I need to think of something else. And I think eventually, like, I didn't even notice it until after I put the video up. There are 2 parts that kind of have too similar a title, but like one of them is like exploring the palace and the next one is like exploring the ruins. And I was just like, that's way too similar. Like, I don't mind doing something like that once, but doing it twice in one project, ugh. But Final Fantasy XII, I haven't had too much trouble Like, there's a couple of them that have been a bit like in the early game where stuff's still trying to move, and like we were still in the prologue, so not much was actually going on in the grand scheme. That it was a bit difficult, but once we've like got into the main meat, it hasn't been too bad. The main thing with this hunt is that he will try and cast Petrify on you a lot, but once you get past that, it really isn't a threat. He's just meaty. He also has level 4 break, which I didn't even remember he had, and I guess I just got lucky that I fitted in an odd number that I wasn't a multiple of 4, because I just didn't even remember having it, him having it. As I've mentioned it before, but now we've been introduced to it, I'll mention it again. There are things called level spells, where a spell will only connect if you're a multiple of the level it says. So in that instance, it said level 4 break. So if your level is a multiple of 4, the attack would have connected. But because no one in our party is, I think, it didn't. There's a boss, the boss we're taking on next part, that's getting an entire video to himself, has a level 2 spell, a level 3 spell, and a level 4 spell. Meaning I end up doing a little bit of grinding to get everyone to level 53, because that's the closest level to where we are. That isn't a multiple of any of them. Because when it was 51, that was still a multiple of 3. 52 is an even number, so 2's out of the question. And we couldn't go as far as 54, and I think 55 is taken as well. So now, and I wouldn't want to grind that much anyway, so getting everyone to 53 just became the ideal. Which did result in me having to do a little bit of grinding, but it wasn't too bad. Like, everyone was, like, Basch was level 52 and everyone else was 51. And so I used the embroidered teppets and equipped it to one member until they were even in experience and level with Basch, and then equipped it on the other one. So even though Basch still hit level 53 a little bit earlier, everyone was level 53 before Basch went to 54. If that makes sense. But anyway, moving on. After we've just turned those in, I decided to go check on Montblanc, because our rank has improved, so now we can get a high Arcana. A lot of people who really get into the game, and if you're going for 100% especially, the high Arcana is something you want to try and get a hold of as much as possible. And I already mentioned it before, the very first optional Esper we went for, you can rob high Arcanas from him. But still, this is the hunt, by the way, that we'll be doing next part. The one that we've just picked up now, a mysterious man waiting for us on a big bridge in the Lusu Mines. You have to have unlocked the entirety of the Lusu Mines if you wish to fight this boss. But yeah, let's accept it. Both this hunt and the next one, the commissioner is actually Montblanc himself, so you could just continue the conversation after you accept it and you'll carry on. The location you're looking for in the Lusu Mines is immediately after the save crystal. There's a bridge that has nothing on it. That's the bridge that he'll be waiting on. But the other hunt that Montblanc will take right now, Belito, is one that we'll be doing now, because it's another one that does actually have story connotations to it. And my reasoning being is, I've mentioned before, when we was fighting the Trickster, you can get murmurs and rumours that there is someone suspicious within the guild, or at least someone within the vicinity of it, actively hunting guild members, like pulling people out and things like that and trying to kill them. And so you're warned quite directly with this one that someone might try and get in the way and attack you. Interesting that that's one has said, you of all people, I guess I'll have to go see it yourself. What's gotten into him, Kupo? The hunter stalker everyone's worrying over. Looks like whoever it is a banger, and I've seen the evidence, there's no doubt about it. To think a fellow banger could do such a thing. A banger, Kupo? That's something I wanted to bring up, but have you heard the rumours about Monid, haven't you? Oh, you're still here, Kupo? Yes, stories of the hunter stalker are all too common of late. You must be especially careful in your hunt, Kupo. They try and, like, elude that the guy who walked away is a stalker of hunters, or hunter of hunters, but I caught on quite quickly it's not. There is a specific character that we haven't seen since the prologue that is about to get a return. Some of the hunts that you can also now pick up in the Nabla Fortress are going to either be in the Deadlands or in the Necrohole on Abu Dis. And both of those areas we are not going to anytime soon. They are still way too dangerous for us to dare enter right now. The Death Scythe, well, the name kind of alludes the future. If we decide to go there now, it will massacre us. In the Necrohole Nebudis is probably the very first time you encounter an enemy that breaks the health cap. Enemies have a health cap. If you use Libra on them so you can see their stats, their health cap will count to 99,999. There's a rare game enemy that will sometimes attack you. That's health is like 200,000, so it will just say 99999. But if you find this guy over in the corner, you can find this hunt as well. On my original playthrough, it actually took me a while to find this guy. Like, he's just so tucked away, and you don't even realise you can necessarily talk to him, because usually you have to be a lot closer to them to be able to. But I tried to pick all these up now because I was kind of crossing my fingers that at least one of them wouldn't be in the Deadlands or Necrohole, and it doesn't happen. Goliath is in the Necrohole. Interesting note about Death Scythe. If you are stupid enough to try and fight it now, Death Scythe will only appear if you're in the middlemost area of the Necrohole and you're at critical health. The whole point of Death Scythe is that he's there to try and finish you, not to try and take you on at full health. So that's the gimmick for that one if you decide to go for it now and you're wondering why he isn't showing up when you find the location he's supposed to be in. Your best bet is to make it so your party is only a party of one, then have that one member just use basic attacks on themselves until your health lowers to critical range. And I say that I don't know if it counts as HP critical or whether it's just lower than 10%, but try and make it under both if you can help it. And Death Scythe will spawn in and immediately try and finish you, to which you can immediately bring in the rest of the party because he's already spawned in to take him on the jet. Just obviously when you're hurting yourself, turn off, probably just turn off gambits in general so you can just turn them back on as soon as the fight starts, otherwise your character might just be out healing your own attacks. This guy's another one where it's just tanky. This one's probably the easiest one of the hunts we're doing today. He's just tanky as a truck passes by. It's starting to finally get warmer here in the UK, so I've opened a window, so you might hear more vehicles pass us by. Thankfully this mic, because I did eventually look back, like I said I would the other part, look back on some of the old videos where I knew it happened and it was bugging me to see what ones could be heard. And it's only like projects I've done in the summer, if I pass by, if a loud motorbike passes by, it usually picks it up. But if the windows are closed, so like in just colder weathers or if it's raining, it's usually not too bad. You usually can't hear it. But for this one, we actually get lead bolts, and lead bolts have a chance of casting Immobilize. Immobilize just stops the enemy from moving, but Disable, the one we've currently got, stops them from attacking. So I decide to keep that, despite the fact the lead bolts do an extra point of damage. Back in the secret area, so you are going in from the Zertanen Caverns, this is where you can find a special hunt. The hunt where the Hunter Stalker might be waiting for us. And there he is, and it's a rather interesting little cutscene we get for our trouble.
So we've drawn you out at last. A moth cannot resist the flame. Now you will burn. Long time no see, Balthier. I've been biding my time trolling for hunters. So long you've kept me waiting. I was beginning to think you didn't care.
You are looking rather careworn. Are the lizards in the sandpits not company enough for you?
My blade requires a sharper tongue to keep its edge.
Remember Begamnon? Last time we saw him was the very first visit to the Lusu Mines. You know, when we had Lord Larsa with us, when he was going on under the name of Lamont to try and hide his identity a little bit. But now we finally get to take on Begamnon, our green, definitely not inspired by Boba Fett bounty hunter after our lone hero with his own airship, with his circular chainsaw pizza cutter sword thing. This fight's actually a pretty tough hunt just because you're swarmed. These guys, there are a lot of them and they can hurt a lot, so your best bet is, you might have already guessed, if you're not going for wide attacks, it's going to be mists. But we do have Scathe because of our full visit to the Lusu Mines, so I make sure to take full opportunity of that and laser beam them as much as I can. But I'm wary of the fact that it's 50 MP to use it each time, so I don't set it to a gambit yet until I know until we know we can get away with it, essentially, when we've got far more MP to work with. I keep on going to say SP, and I haven't even been playing Persona, like, recently. Like, the last Persona game I touched was Persona 2, and that was a few months ago. So I always love going back to Persona 2. I was playing Innocent Sin on my Vita. And so it was a while ago, so I don't know why I keep on going to say SP. But I managed to get a big enough one. It doesn't kill all of the Gambian's extras, but it kills enough of them to take the strain of the fight off a little bit. Because that's the main difficulty of this one. It's not actually the enemies themselves, it's the number of them. The Gambian will cast Protect and Shell on himself though, just, you know, to drag out the fight even more. But what's interesting is that somehow Balthier still has an extra bar, and I'm not sure how that happened, so I just take it and just throw another one at all of them and get torrents. And I'm trying to use mists as much as possible, because the final attacks, the concurrences, as the game calls them, if you get each one at least once, you get a gold trophy for it, or like a really high game score achievement, because it's actually pretty difficult to get the requirements for the last two. Like, we've been getting insanely lucky that we've been getting Black Hole, because Black Hole's the second hardest one to get. The hardest one is the opposite. If that's dark magic, there's one that's purely holy. Holy, I think, is the only one I've yet to show off. I do get it eventually, and it comes through in a perfect timing, because it's a boss that's weak to holy when it shows up, and I was like, result! But that's not for ages yet. Actually, I don't think I get it till post-game, thinking about it. But all that's left is Begamnon. And the thing is that he even has a very similar defeat to Boba Fett from Star Wars. There's just no, like, there's no giant murdering sandworm or whatever the thing was called. I know it had a name, I just can't remember it, because I'm not that much of a Star Wars person. Like, I like it on a very casual level. But once you beat up Begamnon, he just falls into the sand pit below like Boba Fett did, and is eaten by whatever wildlife is down there like Boba Fett was, but this time it's giant fish. Well, it's going to be the sea sharks, the sand sea sharks. The only thing is that I'm not sure if you actually need Balthier in your party, because Balthier was in that cutscene at the start and spoke directly back at Begamnon, and only our active party were in that cutscene. Van, Fran and Penello weren't in that scene at all. So I'm curious to see that if Balthier wasn't in your team, if the cutscene would either be different or whether Begamnon just wouldn't spawn, something like that. I kind of suspect it to be the latter, but I'm still kind of curious. I dare say Begamnon could have done with a good sand scrub some time ago. He was the hunter stalker. He'd been trying to lure you out all this time. Can't say as why, though. Why the long faces? The plan worked, didn't it? Ah, Montblanc didn't tell you, did he? Well, if you haven't put two and two together yet, the Bolito hunt was all for show, a way to lure the hunter stalker into the open. Montblanc knew that we couldn't let him go unchecked, so after we hunted the trickster down, he asked me to look into the stalker business. Hence why he needed to defeat the stalker first. None of the investigations were leading anywhere, and the longer we waited, the more victims kept piling up, so Montblanc and I talked it over and decided to use the Bolito hunt as a trap to lure him out. Figured a hunt somewhere nice and isolated ought to do the trick, and I went ahead to lie in wait. And it worked. Probably had something to do with you. There's something about you folks. Either way, it worked. Oh, and a phony hunt means no bounty, obviously, so don't go expecting one. Again, Fran's just here to stare him down. No, I'm only pulling your tail. Tough crowd. Anyway, don't worry. Montblanc gave me your bounty. Should probably be him to give it to you, but I guess it's all the same. Probably best you do it here, actually. Phony hunts and lures. Can't blame the boss when to keep that quiet. Here you go. I'll be heading back to the hall. Good hunting. And that's the end of Begamnon, and the last we'll be dealing with any bounty hunters, despite the bounty on Balthier's head being something that's mentioned again. But that being said, next time on Final Fantasy XII, yeah, I know it's a short part, we're taking on that other hunt. Until then, though, take care.